Jason, my friend, thank you so much for joining me today on Next in Line. I typically like to do a nice intro, but no one's going to do it better than you would, right? You know your background better than all of us. And I've been a big fan just getting to know you a little bit and spending a little bit of time with you. But I'll tell you what, in that short period of time, I did grab some nuggets. My favorite word is like, I love doing this. This is not like work for me. This is like, it's coaching. It's everything. I love getting your guys' perspective. We get an opportunity to learn so much about so many different domains, but also the different leadership styles, stories, your lessons learned, risks that you've taken or risks that you wish you could have took, whatever it may be. Our subscribers, our listeners love it because what we're trying to do here at Next Align is about paying it forward to anybody that it can benefit from, whether somebody's joining their C-suite for the first time, whether somebody's a college grad that's getting into the career, within IT, because most of the, I would say listeners and subscribers are mostly IT focused. And we actually have a lot of CHROs as well and CMOs, but we're starting to, it's everything's around talent because the nature of our business and what we do as far as complete workforce solutions. With that being said, do you mind sharing with Next in Line and the folks out there who you are, where you're from, and how you got to where you're at today?
No, of course. Well, pleasure, Caesar, to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a journey coming up on, almost 30 years in the IT space. And honestly, started off as a young kid, loving technology. Technology back then, for me, radios. And I'm talking radios, CB radios, those kind of things. So I'm tearing everything apart as a kid. And now the advent of computers, playing with those early systems. First GUI was Windows 1.0, quite frankly, and well programmer, although I've played around with it. So I'm not that old, but a lot of fun tech out there. So just a passion for it ingrained in me and exploring different avenues and, growing up in the mid 90s there around the technology, personal computers growing and
That's
leaning
right.
into that consumerization, which really influenced, right, the industry and how it evolved to where we're at today. This helped me explore my path. I looked at the application side, the software development side, dabbled with it. Wasn't quite my passion. Loved
No?
infrastructure, loved building systems, loved being on the human interface side. And that's really, throughout my career there, we're training me into leadership and helped me really focus what I enjoy. And that's, focusing on others, helping uplift them and finding that path. I don't believe in a no-win scenario. I believe in finding a way to yes, and delivering exceptional results. And that spans so many different buckets from my team, the folks I lead, those within that influence circle. And then
Right.
obviously for the business, for our patients here now today with GMR, just to hit 11 years with this organization, amazing journey. Love it. Looking forward to the next 11 and all that we're accomplishing. But I've worked across education, automotive, construction, retail, across all those areas in my career journey and, stepped into leadership outside of formal titles, obviously taking charge. And we'll talk a bit about that here in a bit, I'm sure. Just leaning in, stepped in, first titles back in, '04, then
First
each
management.
first leadership role. Yep. And then
Okay.
stepping forward, right, into successive leadership opportunities. And I've always had this philosophy, right? And you can see this from my career background. I don't believe it's a step back. I think you look at organizational sizes, you continue stepping forward, expanding influence, scope, size,
Absolutely.
responsibilities. And that's truly, if you're trying to carve out a career as a future IT leader, don't be afraid to take on the big tasks, right? And that's what I've always looked at. Lean in and be
Mm-hmm.
useful. It pays dividends.
Title. First of all, thanks for sharing that. So 2004 was the first time, is your first opportunity as having that title as a manager, stepping into management, right? And
Absolutely.
and prior to that though, like I love asking this, what was your first IT job?
Well, first IT
I
job,
gotta hear
gosh,
this.
it was equivalent modern day vernacular field tech, working for a local school district,
Okay.
site visits, going out there, meeting and greeting folks, understanding their needs, and getting their systems back up, their endpoints, and quickly lended itself into stepping into other areas of responsibility because always curious, always wanting to know more, how to expand my knowledge, how to grow. And it all starts off, Caesar, and I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but it all ties together, I promise, right? It's having solid vision. Where do you want to land? Because if your
Yes.
vision is narrow focused, you're looking right in front of you, step by step, you're not going to see the broad horizon, right? It
Oof.
seems like common sense, but folks forget that. Know your end goal. My focus, even way back then, was to be an IT leader. And what did that mean? What's the path you have to take to get there? and do
Wow.
the right things. And I've always believed in hard work over many other philosophies that you see. It's still somewhat permeated, but I love the cultural evolution of a lot of different corporations,
I
including
love
where I'm
that.
at today and how we're just furthering. It's a one team approach, our focus, our energy, just so much energy.
You consider yourself a player coach?
I would say so. I would say so.
I get that. I can see it
There's
all day.
and it's that evolution of it, right? Still getting the mix of these things, right? But also it's trusting in the team. It's so
Hmm.
important. It's an overused word of delegation of approach. But gosh, if you don't empower your team and let them seek their challenges, let them fail, they're never going to grow as a leader. They have to.
Let them fail. We're gonna definitely double click on that a little bit later. I
Sounds
definitely
good.
let them fail because I've been that topic has been coming up a lot lately, and I'll tell you, failure has to happen in order to win. Period. Right?
100%. You don't learn anything if you're always the best and you've never faced that scenario. It
Absolutely.
doesn't shape your decision making, right? You always think it's going to be happy path. You've got to understand, plan for the worst, hope for the best. And then, right, we've all heard hope's not a strategy. So I use that lightly. It's an old saying.
That's
But
right.
no, you've got to be ready for every scenario. It's contingency planning. And that comes baked in, definitely an operator mindset here when it comes to that. But I think that's built into all technology professionals.
Can you share, some of the, let's say, challenges that you faced or obstacles as far as on your path to the C-suite for the first time?
Goodness, this is first time in chair was back in, goodness, that was nearly, we'll call it 10 years ago, roughly speaking. And, obstacles there, I'm in seat. I feel a bit of that played a role into it. It's never been a straight line. I don't think there's any path that doesn't take that hard work, that determination, and putting in the time, the reps, if you will, to focus forward,
Absolutely.
right, and accomplish it. So for me, yeah, first time in seat was with Rural Metro Fire, CIO for the fire division. And it was a
Nice.
short run. I want to say roughly 1.5 years. We were acquired, right? A larger company acquired us, AMR and Vision, and it was a great opportunity. Bigger company, bigger opportunities. Reduction in rank by virtue of there's already a CIO. I respect that, and gave them those opportunities to continue to grow. You lean into that. You take these opportunities, you turn into that next step. And so after a year or so in that seat, moved
Hmm.
on to vice president of infrastructure and operations for global medical response
Look at that.
and embraced that, leaned in, had a vision, had a goal for the role, mission, what I wanted to accomplish in the seat. And very happy to say that, as I shared with the gentleman who succeeded me in that role that I selected to step into it. There's some apprehension, right? You're interviewing now with the new CIO. Although we know each other, you're trying for the next level. And I'm encouraging him, like, don't look, I take no offense. I need your vision to take this to that next level. What are you going to do with this? And it's so important, right? Lifting folks up that chain and talking through it and how you build those future leaders. But yeah, for me personally, a path that was you step across, step up, very much stair-stepped approach and well
Yeah.
worth it, right? And some other challenges, right? Again, time and seat, exposure, all these things that I learned in building relationships. And it's not all about just digging in deep to the technical world, right? This is about people. At the end of the day, and that's what I love about being a CIO is the people. That's my job. Lift others up, help them be better than in the day before, help the organization be better, truly embrace, I mentioned earlier, a one team approach and where we're going and firmly believe in that in a collaborative effort. Does the buck stop here? Of course. It does with all leaders at the C level, right? But
For
empowering our
sure.
teams, giving them a voice, having them contribute and collaborate effectively and making sure their voice is heard is huge. And giving
That's
them, as
right.
I mentioned earlier, about failing, giving them that voice to take action, see those results in action, and help guide them. Because
I like to
yes, I want
work
them to
through.
fail, but I don't want them to fall off a cliff and drop 100 feet, right? I want them to understand the guardrails and run with it. It's one of those things. And butcher a quote from Patton, but it's basically lead me, follow me, or get out of my way, right? And allow them to drive for the outcomes, right?
That's right.
That's what
I
it's all
love.
about. If I'm going to have to do their job for them, or vice versa, the expectation that I'll carry them, you've got to learn, you've got to grow. That's how I've been throughout my career, and I've had some
Sure.
fantastic mentors that adopted a very similar philosophy to allow me to lean in and really spread my wings, figure out
That's
where the boundaries are, how far you can push the boundaries. Because that's important too, is pushing and challenging the standard assertions. You think
For
about,
sure.
I'll jump ahead to a question you'd asked ahead of this, and it's around outdated tech notions or ideas. And one specifically for me personally is the idea that you have to be in an industry vertical to be successful in
Okay.
technology. I disagree. That's got to be thrown out the window. I think if you're a great technologist, it doesn't matter where you've been, whether you've worked in the automotive industry or whether you've worked in education, retail. It's a culmination of experiences that you can help uplift the next organization and you bring it all together. That's how I've looked at my 30 years so far. It's just a stacking effect. And this has been
That's
a great organization where I'm at today. Add one more layer. Now it's in healthcare for the last 11 years and driving goodness there and taking it to the
that's
next level.
And Jason, I haven't heard that one. I haven't heard that in a long time, that perspective, as far as, having a specific domain shouldn't hold you back. Actually, if you think about it, that's just another adding more of a diverse skill set, right? A different domain that might be able to benefit from, right? Versus,
You want that outside perspective because when you work in the same domain for so many years, you get blinders,
that's
right?
right.
And it
So
creates a caution. So as I build out teams and I want folks that have diverse backgrounds. I want you to
that's,
come in here, challenge the assertions. Let's make it better than it was.
I love that. You mentioned so many. I keep on finding myself just writing as fast as I can because I'm telling you, Jason, there's a lot of guys. I love that, you mentioned it's about the people first. And I do agree with you 100%. I think if that's not right, it's hard to get anything done, right? I mean, it's
100%.
difficult, because you're not the one by yourself out there coding. You're not the one, troubleshooting every single day. You got to rely on a team. Question though regarding, let's say the new age CIOs today, how important it is for them to stay a little closer to technology though? How important is that? Or do you feel like it's not as important?
I think it depends. And that's going to be, and the reason I say that is your organization size. If you're a small
Okay.
startup, if you're in a scrappy organization that doesn't have the size and scale, you've got to be closer to it. You've got to understand, you've got to be well connected. You may be in the trenches
That's
and
right.
that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's many folks that love it, right? It's all about layers. Totally about layers, actually, because depending on the organizations and what you're passionate about, if you love being in the weeds, but you also equally love leading, it's okay. And you stay there, you stay close to it, you stay relevant. But as you scale, if you want to go into the much larger organizations, the ratios change because people leadership is 1,000 times more important when you get into a large scale operation where you're
And
dealing with my team, 260 full-time employees plus another 500. I mean, or not 500, 500 total, with our nearshore partners. And so you have a huge team. And I say partners, and I look at those nearshore partners as part of the team. They're one GMR, right? It doesn't matter who pays you. We're here
no,
together in this, right? And that's how I've always looked at that. Because again, inclusivity, bringing people together. That's the important part. So yeah, it's going to vary for this younger generation on the size of
that's
the organization you're in. But I think it's so important, honestly, cut your teeth in those scrappier shops. That's been in my DNA for 30 years. I love the action. I love getting in there. Even today, I still dig in the weeds, much to my team's dismay at times. We're like, all right, tell me to
yeah.
step back. I will. But I absolutely love it. Getting in
Where
the
do you find
weeds.
yourself like leaning towards? Because you told me earlier you're like an infrastructure guy first, right? To heart, you lean there
Absolutely.
more or more on the business side? You tell me. I like to get some.
It's been evolving, honestly. So coming up on 3 years in this particular seat, and it's been an evolution. If you
Mhm.
looked at me on day one, 100% digging in, definitely on the infrastructure, but across the span to quickly, a year later, it's like, you guys have this. We're going to talk about vision, strategy, keeping us in the guardrails, as I mentioned earlier. You guys
That's right.
deliver. You've got this. And I'll step in where I need to. I like to joke and say helicopter parent the team. I think it's appropriate for Gen X to come in and do that a bit. And I joke I'm a boomer at times, but it's because of that hard work, right? You've got to lean in. That's what I look for my team. Again, back to outcome based delivery, deliver on that. And that's, again, back to a younger generation of CIOs. You've got to be willing to lean in and do the hard work. It's not all about the title. And I've had so many conversations recently with peers in the industry, newly promoted leaders kind of come in with this, oh, I should get everything and I don't need to do X, Y, Z. It's like, no, you need to know essentially, and I'll use a ship analogy, right? You have to know your ship. You need to know how it runs, be able to
Absolutely.
pull the right levers. Doesn't mean you code. Don't ask me to
No,
code today, please. But can I give you that directional guidance and say, hey, here's what makes sense. Here's where we head towards sense. You have to have
sure.
a familiarity. And that's why I mentioned be willing to be scrappy and dig in because it'll only layer onto your career. But you very
That's
well
right.
might find yourself loving it and you stay in that channel and that business size, and that's okay. But it also opens other doors. Maybe you want to be a chief technology officer. You lean heavy that direction. CTO has like 3 definitions these days, right? Whether you're solution focused, technologist and customer facing, or generalized, right? And so that's another area folks can lean into. It's a conversation I have often with my team. Where do you take it to that next level, even with my CISO and his possibilities and how to expand that? There's always a way to grow. Absolutely.
I just learned about a couple new C-suite titles in IT. You'll love this one. So this one's probably out there a little while, but it's Chief CAIO, right?
Oh,
Chief
yeah.
AI. That's been becoming real popular now. But the one I heard this morning, I was like, oh, okay, what is that? A CITO. Have you heard that one yet?
That's technically my title, actually.
Awesome. Are you
Chief,
serious?
chief,
Like legit?
legit, yeah. Chief IT officer, chief information technology officer, and it's a
First one.
broader facet, right?
Yeah.
Chief AI officer reminds me of, goodness, I want to say 7, 8 years ago when chief data officer, right? CIO, which now is
That's right.
chief digital officer. I mean, it's all these permutations, right?
That's right.
Because of what's focal. I think
That,
as a CIO in general, you got to broaden your horizons and be looking at all the facets. But again, it's not on our plate, especially in large organizations, to be that expert in everything. It's to bring the right people around the table and trust that they can execute the vision and strategy and have them contribute to it. That's
bring
all
the
about
people.
what being a leader is again, lifting others up and giving them that opportunity and their shot. And then to grow into, quite frankly, my seat. Eventually it's like, here you go. You're ready. This is on you, whether it's here or another organization.
Do you
Exactly.
have people
I
like that
firmly believe in that.
you have people like that in the wings? Is that something that you as part of your planning? You look for a succession plan all the time. You have people you
Yes.
identify.
Yes, I
That's
do. That's again, that's what this role is about. Getting that next generational leader ready. But also, right, obviously my day job's driving the vision and strategy of the organization. But I want to have folks there lined up, ready to go
mhm.
that I can say, hey, that's your person. Just won the lottery today and it's been real. Here's who you're going to call on and get them beyond, right? It's a term I use often, but you want to have the difference between ready or interim for now, right? I want to get folks ready. I want them to be a tough choice,
You want them
right?
ready. You want them
And
ready.
have them going. It's just so important. Succession planning is always top of mind as I look at leaders, how I tier the structure in GMR, how we have various layers of leadership development. IT emerging leaders is our broader group of supervisors, of managers. We get them together, stretch exercises, goals, let them be part of the process. Newly defined IT leadership. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's a formal program you have
Yes.
with your organization? That's really cool. I mean, that says a lot. I mean, that's something that's very attractive. I mean, you're probably able to, do you leverage any of that to attract talent to come to your organization?
It's all evolving, all part of that, in showing folks that we have a good program, we have a way for you to grow. And growth is not just upward, it's lateral. What other
Ab-
opportunities? Where else do you want to go in the organization? I don't take offense. You want to go over to ops? You want to go into clinical? Follow your passion. Because if you follow your passion, you're going to drive success no matter
to the
what you
company.
do.
That's right. To
It's
the company and the company. Absolutely.
100%. We had to finish the story on the developing leaders. So yeah, IT emerging leaders. We have an IT leadership committee, redefined that. That's my skip levels. Those are those folks that if my directs, for whatever reason, find a great opportunity or you name it, that's the next bench. And I need them to be ready to step into that seat. And so
That's
that
smart.
group also with the redefinition, they're driving the strategy with us. They're helping build that. They're making some tough play calls that, hey, I don't want 5 people in a room making a decision for 500. I want to have a broader layer of representation. Again, back to having folks' voice heard. So key.
Damn.
And then organizationally, GMR does a wonderful job with leadership development programs beyond just what we do within IT. We're
Wow.
focused obviously on technology and
Mhm.
ensuring utmost delivery of customer service, that excellence. But as a whole, we have a great leadership development program led within
Wow.
our HR team.
Do you find yourself partnering closely with, let's say, the CHRO for these type of this type?
Absolutely. Collaboration, conversation. We drive our own programs, but you want to have a unification, right? You want to have folks have a common theme. What we're building with GMR's culture is just amazing. And it's always evolving. We have an outstanding executive leadership team, proud to be a part of that. And where we've taken the company in the last few
Wow.
years is amazing. Our growth. I'll pause on the sales pitch for GMR and the recruiting efforts here and refocus. But
You're certainly passionate about it. And I think when you're passionate about something, it's just
it's
natural. Comes
natural,
out. That's right.
100%.
I got a couple more. I wrote down some notes because I have some questions I want to double click on a little bit for you.
Of course.
Let's talk about, you mentioned about your people and you talk about training. Let me ask you about like, and you managing those folks. What about managing up as far as on the business side? So that's a question I have. I mean, how close are you, is the CIO position? Is it have a seat at the table at your organization where you are reporting directly, to the C-suite, like, leader, CEO or COO, whatever it may be? You did mention, you kind of gave it away a little bit, but you are part of the executive management team. So it does have a seat, right?
Yes, I report directly to the CEO. And our executive team is comprised of all of the 10 other leaders that report directly to that role. And equal collaboration of voice. To quote my CEO, right, he expects us to wear two hats, our business hat and obviously our expertise, our SME hat, and lean in on these conversations. So we get around the table often, debate,
So
collaborate, get to the best decisions and outcomes for this organization. And beyond that, again, back to that inclusive approach that we do as an organization, get together for broader meetings, bringing in the senior management team, which is comprised of vice presidents and above, get their voice around a table, working sessions. Because again, it can't just be the executive team making the decisions. The buck stops there at that table.
sure.
So we want everyone's voice heard to drive the best outcomes, to make sure we hear those folks in the front line. Because at the end of the day, think about an inverted pyramid. We're here for our caregivers. That's the bottom line, to deliver patient care in the best possible manner. And the only way you can do that is by hearing everyone's voice along the way and recognizing it. There's one thing to do the empty calorie thing is, we send out a survey once a year. You don't act on it. No, we act on it. We live by it. Does it take time? In an organization of 40,000 team members across all 50 states, it takes time. But it's that 1% better every day is what makes the difference.
I love that. So let me ask you, as far as you answered that one, I mean, that was great. I mean, congratulations, by the way, because not every organization is, people have the opportunity to work for an organization that has IT at the seat at the table like that. They actually value where IT is an enabler probably of achieving their goals, where they want to go.
Absolutely. It's an openness. It's a fresh perspective. Huge kudos to my leadership, my CEO, for having that perspective and understand this a vision, a journey. And I've shared it with him and he supports it, that we're in IT 1.0 right now, this normalization. 2.0, we're going to continue building that, building muscle, maturity to deliver better solutions, transform this from a delivery centered organization to an embedded product centered organization over an IT 3.0. And it's going to be a journey. Because again, as I shared, as large of an organization that we are, it takes time. It takes time to build confidence, to prove out methods, and to embrace change. Change is hard, and you have to manage it so well. And how do you do that? Through effective communication. And beyond communication, tremendous amount of transparency. Here's our why. Here's how this transpired. Ask questions, do proper planning, get folks to embrace it, and more than anything else, be part of that journey too. Ask the tough questions, how we can change.
Change, and I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because I was going to ask you that. Change. Do you guys have a change management practice within IT, or does it sit outside the business, outside of IT?
Within IT. It's one of our more mature areas, actually. So when I built out the infrastructure team in the 7-ish years ago, that was centered there. You think about ITIL practices. You got to be cautious with that word, by the way, that acronym, because I've worked with organizations, I've worked with peers in the industry that get a little too rigid around that. That doesn't work, right? You've got to have fluidity. You've got to understand your business partner's needs, because you can grind an operation to a halt if you try and layer in too much of that. So we've evolved it. I've got a great leader at the helm with our change management, with our service delivery teams, and we're just continuing to take it to the next level. But how we're doing that, again, is listening to our customer. How does this impact you? How do we do better? How do we deliver? We have to maintain compliance, risk. We have to understand all those levels, but still enable you to deliver the best possible results for our patients. And we've got a good blend of that and a good understanding, but it comes with communication, with education, with understanding and being willing to be flexible. I've worked with folks in the past that are so rigid and they don't understand it. It's like, we're here for this company. We're here for the success of the mission. Nothing else.
Is that
Everything else is an added benefit that we can grow, we can learn, we can do and keep taking it to the next level.
so? You said you worked with some folks that had that rigidness, but when you took the helm and you sat in that seat, is that something that you brought to the organization? You wanted that flexibility. You wanted that to allow the company to change, but not too much. We're adding too much overhead where you can't move and you can't change, right? Too much process or too much compliance or whatever it may be. But
Yeah,
did you bring that when the organization over the last few years?
it's one of those things. It's an evolving perspective too. I'm reminded of, don't let great be the enemy of good. And you have to think about that for delivery, for your models, because we can strive for perfection, but at the end of the day, you end up with a gold plated solution and you're out of business, right? And that goes for process, that goes for technological investments, you name it. So you've got to wear that hat and understand what's the right calibration, what's going to help us deliver faster, better results, but not over rotate.
That was really good. Have you ever spent time within your career in a smaller environment, more of an entrepreneurial environment before?
I have way back. Oh my gosh. It was early in my career. So it was within the automotive industry. And
Okay.
yeah, we were a small team. I mean, from a back office perspective, maybe 15, 20,
Yeah,
total
because
of
some of the,
100 folks supporting the operation. It was a fun experience.
I mean, you learn a lot too, right? You wear
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
hats and you got to be agile and flexible. But some of the things that you mentioned, you typically don't hear a lot in a really large organization, which is good to hear. This is refreshing.
You have to, I firmly believe, and that's the thing about models, because you do get some folks that are so rigid and come in, and this is just how we are, and this is how we have to do it. It's like, no, we need to be scrappy, but appreciate process and apply it in the right manner. But
Love
sometimes
it.
you just got to execute and drive for
Yeah.
the goal, right?
You could be enterprise and nothing better than being enterprise, being large, but scrappy at the same time. Now you're going to move the needle, right?
That's how you evolve. That's how you push business further. That's what we do within the IT group is we take these ideas, we lead the partnership. And again, this goes into the IT evolution at 1, 2, 3.0,
Mm.
how we evolve solutioning, how we do that, how we earn that seat at the table every day by listening, by adding value so that our business partners, they don't have to worry about driving it all on their own anymore. They know that, hey, we're going to bring these right folks right around the table at the right time. And we're going to get
That's
some
good.
great things together.
So it wouldn't be a normal podcast, especially an IT focused podcast without asking, bringing up AI, right? In today's day and age, right? So let me ask you a couple questions about that. AI, as far as, your 1.0, you want to get to, you're going to go to 2.0, 3.0. Has it created any challenges in your organization? Like maybe because what we're seeing, what we're hearing is created some shadow AI organizations within the company as well. Or I guess what I'm asking there is like, has it created challenges and what are some of the benefits you've seen?
Oh,
So,
so AI, lead off, make a bold statement of a buzzword, quite frankly. We know this. It's everywhere right now, but it's getting embedded in everything. And so the commoditization of AI feels can be here pretty rapidly, right? Think about your phone. I'll just pick on that example, right? It's an outlier and all of a sudden it's being baked into your iOS settings. You name it.
right.
But challenge wise, you do see a little bit of shadow IT. But that's good. I think a healthy amount of shadow IT in an organization benefits you. It helps drive almost get that skunk works because you get your traditional technologists that very rigid, where your innovative side on the business is going to help push you in your envelope there and then limits. For us, taking a pragmatic approach to AI, how we
Okay.
deploy solutions, where we look at that and where it makes sense, not just doing AI for AI's sake. Within our setting, we're a non-traditional healthcare, right? We're on the front lines of healthcare, number one provider of emergent healthcare solutions. And so you think about that pre-emergent care and how we look at delivering quality, better guidelines. That's where I see the evolution of it, is
Okay.
to get to better outcomes as we bring them into the system, into the hospital systems, et cetera, and ultimately save them. But yeah, it's one of those challenging things. We maintain
Hmm.
tight controls around it, understandably so. Back to risk, back to
Sure.
cybersecurity postures. You can't have that, and there's various levels, right? You just can't have that information compromised. The bottom line. But
Yes.
two, you think about different models, and I think about this with the healthcare context broadly. What if your
Okay.
model's poisoned? What if you get the wrong patient care, wrong dosing of whatever, because
God, that's
somebody hacked into that? So it's so important to manage risk, to have an optimistic view, but a realistic view on how to apply the technology best. And we're evolving so rapidly with AI, with the environment today,
Mhm.
that my opinion will change 3 times over if we pick this conversation up in a year because of new knowledge, new expansion in the front.
It's moving fast.
But it's going to help uplift. That's how I think about AI overall for my organization. How do we get
Yep.
uplift in our team members? How do they enable them to do a better job, provide better patient care, provide better support from a support services area to work faster, more efficiently,
Yep.
and to drive better results? But you can't lose sight of the human element. You still need the interactions. You still need those core drivers and those core skills.
So,
That's a greater concern that I'll opine on a sidebar with you.
definitely. No, something interesting there, which I agree with as well. You said shadow IT is it's okay. It's actually could be a good thing, but I imagine as long as they let you know about it, because you have to make sure that you have to protect everybody.
100%. I want the collaboration. I encourage shadow IT. It's healthy for an organization. You don't get folks so locked into just a channel. Again, blinders, but yes, awareness. Please share with us so it's not a last hour. And that's where, again, a lot of our IT maturity has come so far because we
Mm,
get the right folks around the table and we're talking about things. So now we get folks bringing information early and often. Hey, can you help me here? Or, hey, I found a solution. I'm going to bring it to the table. And yeah, I've done 80% of the work, but we do want your support, your buy-in, your voice heard. And so you see that in varying degrees, but it's
yeah.
good. It's
No,
very good because again, they get to look at it a different lens. I'm not there on the front lines every day. I have a full appreciation for what we do, but the day to day, there's some folks
yeah.
that are much closer and they provide a very valuable voice for us to better serve them
Mm.
in developing
Beautiful.
proper solutions.
You have a great perspective on it. Look, that is actually is going to help them, adapt and change, bring in the solution collectively faster, even together. Right.
Yeah.
So I love that, man. I think that's a great one. That's a great answer. A couple of things I want to just kind of shoot as a little bit of rapid fire, a
Yeah.
little bit. It's for the folks that we can pay it forward to them. Let's say, can you share some like 3 must do's, and don'ts, for the younger generation entering the workforce, the IT workforce, let's say.
Now, 3 must-dos. Be curious. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to question the why to get to understanding and get uncomfortable. That's how you're going to grow. Don't get complacent. A lot of folks come into this and, hey, I've earned this seat because I did X. Like, no, you got to keep going. Got to keep
That's
driving
right.
forward. And again, I'm blending those answers, but it's so true because folks are afraid to roll up their sleeves these days. Not
Yeah.
all, by the way. I don't want to make that an absolute, to be clear,
Yeah.
but I've seen it more often than not that it's like, no, sure, the way it got you here is not going to get you to the next level.
One, and you nailed that one. You couldn't say it any better. You're absolutely correct. So
Go
so
ahead.
those are, so some do's, right? And what are some, I guess, some don'ts?
Don't wrap around the technology. This isn't about technology, especially if you want to be a leader. Technology is part of the journey, but it's not your foundation. It's about people. It's about communication. And again, don't be afraid to meet with folks. Get over your apprehension. I do throw a blanket statement out occasionally that IT is a group of introverts. And on
Uh-huh.
average, it definitely can be. We'll just apply the 80-20 rule here. Again, back to my statement, get uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to have the bold conversations. Don't be afraid to walk up to a CIO. Find a mentor. That's been a huge part of my career, having the right leaders at the right time. And we've all had poor leaders and we've had some amazing leaders, and those amazing leaders lift us up in different ways. And we craft our leadership style around that. And we take what they did, just as I mentioned with one of my successors for the infrastructure role, we
That's
take it to
right.
the next level. I've had some amazing leaders in the last 30 years. And a couple, you're like, yeah, all right. But even those leaders, you
You
still
need
take
that.
away,
Absolutely.
hey, here's what you do and don't do, and how you
Yes.
approach, and it builds your brand, right?
That's
And it's
right.
so important. So don't be afraid to lean in and ask for help. That's the other piece.
Lean in
None
and
of
ask for
us
help.
have the answer all the time. So don't be afraid to raise your hand.
I
Be
like that.
humble. And I think the final thing I'll leave you with on that is check your ego at the door. There's no room for
Amen.
that. No room for the bravado. And trust me, I've come across a number of folks in my time that's like, you're the most important person in the room because when you become that, you're not going to grow. You're locked.
No, stuck. You're stuck.
Exactly.
Well, don't want to be the smartest one either, right?
Exactly. Seriously, it all goes together, right?
Oh, cool.
Do you embrace the learner's mindset? Do you have that passion, that ability? Or again, are you stuck in this channel, on this rut? And it may have been great, but again, as I mentioned earlier, what got you there is not going to get you to the next level.
To the next one, right?
Yeah.
I like that a lot, man. A couple rapid fire, another one. Let's say, are taking risks something you recommend?
Absolutely. But I will add a little asterisk to that, measured
Okay.
risk, right? Everything we do is about risk. In this chair, as a leader, even as a manager, when you're a leader of people, leader in an organization, risk is part of that job. And how you manage the risk, how you understand it, how you make the bold plays. You got to have all the information available. Now, sometimes you don't. You got to trust your gut,
Yes.
and it's all situational. So I know I just gave a bunch of if then else statements in that, but
That
it's
was
so true
very
because you've
balanced.
got to, you've got to, it's all about measured risk and what's important and how you're going to further the organization. But it's all about timely situations, right? If you think about a cyber event, you're going to make different risk based decisions in that scenario to get back and steady the
Yeah,
ship versus normal runtime. Hey, a project may be sliding off the rails. Where do you
exactly.
make the insert that play call? So it's all about measured risk, but it's about bold plays. And I think you have to have that in your career. Again, one thing I'll caveat on that is you don't need to be the hero either. You want to, again, think about the team effort, one team, broad mission of your organization. Stay focused there, manage your risk to that to deliver exceptional results, push the
I
next
love
level. But you can't be risk adverse because at that point, you're not making the bold plays. And honestly, it's not going to get you to that next seat. So,
Can't win the game, paying to be too
exactly.
conservative, right? So you got me all
It's all
motivated. I
about
don't
understanding your
maybe because the
business.
NFL is coming up, football's about to start. You got me with all these, plays right now. So are you an NFL fan?
I am not an over the top fan. I've got my team, the Bears. So yeah. And it's going to be their
So
year. That preseason game last Sunday, my wife's like, just temper it down. It's not going to be. I'm like, you'll see. You'll see.
let's not get too exciting,
every
right?
year.
That quarterback looks pretty promising. I'll tell you, he's pretty good.
He does. Look, it's been 40 years now. It's time. It's time.
It's they're due. You were telling me they're due. I love that. I couldn't agree with you more on a lot of this stuff, man. How about in respects to what do you look for, let's say, in that next upcoming leader? Let's say within the organization, do you have some folks out there that what do you look for to identify some that next generation leader for you? That you can say, you know what, they're doing something different or special that would get your attention.
Those up and coming leaders that are on my radar, one, as I've mentioned, they're not afraid to roll up their sleeves. They'll take on missions, tasks that are beyond their pay grade. Maybe they're dirty tasks. They just got to dig into weeds of stuff, right? They're not afraid to lean in. Those, to me, those have a high level of communication skills. Those that understand their customers, they understand that we're here to support the business while also further the technology mission, right? They understand their priorities. Those are the leaders that I'm looking at that are up and comers and are willing and ready and have an open mind. Again, a learner's mindset. They have a curiosity. They want to understand and get the whole picture of the business, not just come in and focus, hey, I'm an XYZ developer or administrator or engineer, and that's my job. Leave me alone.
No,
That's
that's
great.
yeah.
Love that you're here supporting the mission, but are you my next leader?
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's
It's
talk
just-
about your why of why you want to be a leader. And I do
yeah,
challenge that because look, not all technologists make great leaders either. And all too often that happens. Folks will get, hey, they're great at their role. They're going to make them a manager. What are their
that's right.
people skills? What's the level of empathy? How do they connect? Because that's so important too. Just, there's a DNA to it. There's absolutely, or rather a calculus to it. Because back to what we were talking about with risk, their understanding of decision making, their presence, all of these things combine to make a good leader. And I'll never pigeonhole somebody because of old school arbitrary nomenclature, right? But on the
Yeah,
same note, those are the key traits I do look for. Their readiness and willingness to show traits that can you grow on? Can you grow from this? Can we throw another thing at them? Will they lean in? That's where I look at. So volunteerism, curiosity,
those
continuous
are
learning.
those are great scouting reports, right? When you look for somebody. And so I'm big into that as well. As we wrap up, I wanted to ask you as far as, paying it forward, right? Within your organization, have you seen any examples of that within IT, but not just yourself to what you do as a leader? Because based on the way your leadership style is and what you explained to me today and all these different examples, not just saying this to say this, but you take care of your people, man, right? You could tell that
Thank
a
you.
model. Have you seen leaders with your organization pay it forward to others?
Absolutely. That's our culture, right? That's what I love about the EMS industry. That's what we do, not just for patient care, but for ourselves. What you see in this organization, our tenure, we had a 60 plus year veteran just retire. The passion that comes into this organization and folks' growth and leadership, and they genuinely care. It's a team sport. And there's no better
Just
team than what we have here. And you see that. I could give you 100 examples of what we do and lift other leaders up. and their readiness. And so the programs that we're instituting now over the last 3 years really are reinforcement of those core values of that culture and
Mhm.
uplifting the culture. Folks' ability to lean into that and embrace it, it's huge. You see that across the board. So,
That's
so powerful.
that, and that says a lot because you probably said it collectively earlier. I wrote down you have collectively, I would say 500 people within your organization in IT
Yeah,
between nearshore and full time. I mean, to have that many people, to have that type of culture, that's something special. That's really good.
it is.
You
And
must have a
it's
lot.
ever growing. Are we perfect?
No,
But
no.
one, progress every day, right? To make folks
We
ensure
have
that
our
they feel
days.
that, right? No, it's about making folks feel valued, the importance
Yeah.
there, and their voices heard, and everyday incremental improvement. That's what I look at. That we're not sliding backwards. That we're doing our jobs, and as leaders, that our team members feel valued. That's the most important piece between my role, between my direct reports roles, and all others there.
And, as we wrap up, like, I gotta, cause this one just came up for me now, you know, you have a big job, you work on a large organization. Congrats on everything. You've done a lot, Jay. It didn't come the easy way, right? 100% all the time, right? You had, what you shared with me earlier and everything, right? But you made it to this level. Like if you had to break down on your daily activities, what are, let's say, 3 must do's you have to do as a leader each day?
Personally, it's when I say personally, how do I ready myself? It's intentionality. Know my day, my week, my month. Where am I preparing for? Where are the big rocks? How does it align to our strategy? That to me is table stakes every day. It's automatic. Beyond that, it's connecting with people. Tremendous amount of skip levels, rounding, if you will, making sure hearing voices, not just in my team, but reaching out, the random outreach. It doesn't have to be regimented. I know in this virtual world, things have changed so much, but just doing the ping, whether it's a text, phone call, how you doing? How can I help you? Being there
That's
in
right.
service is so important. So that's another big part of my day outside of the usual projects and other detailed calls that you have to go through, right, in your average agenda. But
Well, that
those are some of the key highlights for me that you have to do.
Yeah, connecting with everybody, connecting with people it's got to be fun. Whether it be, is that something? Is it all positive, or are you talking just in general? You try to give good feedback.
It's general connection. I want real feedback. I believe in, as I mentioned earlier, transparency. I believe in candor. That's how you solve stuff. You get that
That's
big,
right.
ugly thing that falls out of the sky and wrestle it to the table together. That's the important part. Hear each other, work for the win together. There doesn't have to be a winner or loser in the scenario. There can be mutual wins here. It's about compromise. It's about collaboration in that piece of it, right?
Man,
But that's
I
I just believe in those touch points and keeping your thumb on the pulse, right? It doesn't have, like I said, it does not have to be regimented. It's as friendly as a drive by, right? Back to that joke about being a boomer, but do the 5 minute drive by and say hi. How are things going? You solve so
absolutely.
much in just that small
It goes
amount
a
of
long
time.
way. It goes a long way.
Absolutely.
That people talk about my door is always open, but there's others that I would say get out there. Get out in the
Yes.
field. Right. That's
It's
cool.
you have to. You absolutely have to in a seat, no matter if your company's 100 people or 100,000 people. Be present in various shapes and forms.
Absolutely. That was great, man. You've done a great job. I mean, I can't say enough.
Oh, thank
I
you.
want to just like high five my man, Jason. I got something good for you. So you mentioned something. If you do win the lotto, I know what you're going to do. I'm going to take a good guess. I think that you will do if you win the lotto because you have your people ready to, backfill you. But I think you're going to
Exactly.
wind up fly fishing for a long time.
It is
Right.
true. Disappear and be a guide, right?
That's right. So how often do you get out there, man? Seriously, I often.
I'll be honest, not enough. This year has
What?
flown by. And but I try to get out at least throughout the summer, at least 5 times. I am well behind that. But I've had some fun adventures otherwise, as I've shared with you. Avid off-roader. Love getting out there on the trails, just experiencing nature. I think it's, at least for me, right? It's that quiet. No cell service usually. And can just
No
disconnect fully.
Starlink?
No Starlink.
No
One of
Starlink.
my team members keeps trying to encourage me to do that with the portable one. I'm like, we're not doing this. Because I get to unplug and just
That's
enjoy
true.
that.
That's great. So where's normal vacation? What's our usual destination spot for you guys?
It varies. The girls love the beach. So that's where we usually end
Okay.
up.
Well,
This
fine.
last year we were in Florida down near Naples. And
Now you can't come down here without letting me know.
I know. Next time, my friend. Next time.
You have to.
But
You have to. I love to
it's
do
all
this
beach.
again. Let's say 12 months from now. Let's just see what 1.0 is. Did you hit 2.0? Are you on your way to 3.0? I would love to hear that story, man, because it's pretty cool. You got a great, you got a great organization you work with. You're very humble and down to earth, and it's refreshing to see that, man. And I wish you nothing but much success, my friend. I mean, you're going to continue to kick ass and do well.
I appreciate that. And I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today.